Number 1. This happened on Halloween of last year. Me and a couple of buddies were out getting candy. Our neighborhood isn't exactly the safest, but it isn't the worst either. About 90 minutes into trick-or-treating, we see a house with a sign that says "Go to the van for your candy," which had an arrow pointing down to a creepy-looking black van. This house was at the end of the street, so if things did go south, it would be easy to get away fast if necessary. We go to the van, and we see a man sitting in the driver's seat. He tells us,
"Your candy is in the back here. Open up the door and come on in."
I know when something is up, and my alarm bells were punching my brain at this point. We all give each other a confused look. Then we ask the man, "Why isn't the door already open? And why aren't you out here? Couldn't you have done the same thing with a take one note or something?" He just repeats himself, telling us to get into the back of his van for our candy. We say no and continue on with our trick-or-treating. About 20 minutes later, we're about 2 blocks away. We notice a van about halfway down the street behind us. The same black van from before. I tell the others and we agree to haul ass back to my friend's house. Once the van notices us running away, it takes off in the other direction. When we got to our friend's house, we frantically tell our parents about what happened. They called the cops, but as far as I know, they never found the van. We agreed not to trick-or-treat this year, and decided to just hang out instead. I still wonder what would have happened if we had been stupid enough to enter that van.
Number 2.
I used to own a small Halloween-themed shop that was located downtown in a fairly small city. And unlike many businesses in town after Walmart's arrival, my store never really suffered when it came to customers. Of course, it was only open for the month of October. I sold a lot of unique things you might find at other novelty stores in bigger cities, but for cheaper prices. I really didn't do it for profit as much as I did to celebrate the spooky Halloween spirit. I also love to celebrate that spirit by doing the best to scare the crap out of people every Halloween. On one particular Halloween, my chosen victim was my buddy Alex. He was a pretty relaxed and calm guy for most of the time, so he was the perfect person for the plan I had in mind. First, you should know that I always began packing up my store on Halloween fairly early in the morning, as it was unlikely to get customers on the holiday itself. I told Alex that I had much heavier merchandise that year and could use his help moving it all out. Not knowing what he was getting into, he accepted, and I told him to meet me at the shop around 10 p.m. sharp. As I said, Alex was a very relaxed and calm guy for most of the time. Well, unfortunately for him, he had once told me about his irrational fear of clowns and how he couldn't function around them. So naturally, my plan involved dressing up in a clown costume. When he would arrive at the shop, I would stand perfectly still like a statue. Once he realized he couldn't find me, he would then call me, most likely. But when my phone rang, it would be in the pocket of an apparent clown statue, and when he came over to investigate, I would give him my best scare. Pretty simple plan, right? Everything was set in motion. I dressed up and stood near the back of the store, obscured by some boxes and other decorations, and waited for his arrival. A little after 10, Alex entered. It was very dark, as I made the last-minute decision to cut out the lights before he arrived. He called my name a few times, but of course I didn't respond. I heard him walking around a bit, looking around the shop for me. I could barely hold back my laughter. But after more shuffling, I heard Alex speak in a defensive tone. "Not funny, dude." I looked around, but there was definitely no way he could see me right now, even if I had twitched or anything. I continued to play dumb. "Come on, man," he repeated again, sounding angrier this time. "That's not funny." Confused, I quietly adjusted a nearby stack of boxes so I could peer through the crack towards his voice. I couldn't make out his shape very well, but I knew for sure he was not looking in my direction. Suddenly my phone rang. I heard Alex turn towards the sound instantly. I froze, giddy with excitement that the plan might be working. But as he approached, I realized he wasn't holding his phone, and a wave of disappointment fell over me as I discovered my prank had been ruined by another caller. "Alright, fine, you got me," I announced shortly after the phone stopped ringing, taking off my mask and stepping out into the open. But Alex's face didn't look relieved. His face twisted in such horror in a way that I had never seen before. He began yelling and spouting panicked words, and I spent the next few minutes trying to get him to calm down. He explained to me that when he entered the store, a man in a clown costume was staring at him and then began slowly walking towards him. But when my phone rang, the man had dashed right out of the store. Alex had no idea that I was actually hiding in the back of the store the whole time. I don't want to think about what could have happened if Alex had showed up late that night, or if my other friend had never called during the prank. Number 3. I'm a police officer. A situation that stands out the most would have to be Halloween of 2001. This particular experience nearly made me take a leave due to the weirdness. So don't say I didn't warn you. It starts off on a regular Halloween patrol. My regular partner was sick, but somehow still managed to attend a party. So I was stuck with a crotchety racist bastard who I didn't like. After about an hour, he says something like, "Hey, Spook, what's going on over there?" After a brief and angry discourse on nomenclature, we stopped to see what looked like an impromptu costume orgy past a thicket on the side of the road. This was normal for Halloween, and was more often than not middle-aged partygoers. The two men were dressed like Mickey Mouse, and the woman was hard to see, but appeared to be dressed as a deer. Normally when I see the old random hump, I let them have the privacy to finish, and then chase them off or arrest them depending on location. This time was disconcerting though. They weren't holding the woman down, but from what I could see she was unresponsive, so we strolled up and tapped on the tree behind them. They didn't stop canoodling, but what we saw made us jump back, and I'm ashamed to admit I threw up on the spot. This is the part where I say I saw what was the single most awful thing and I'm assuming racist asshole as well, have ever seen. It wasn't a deer costume. It was a half-butchered doe, with its intestines strewn about. They were taking turns fucking it, and all they were wearing was Mickey Mouse masks. That was really hard to write because the image is still fresh in my brain, even after all these years. This was just so inhumanly awful that I can't describe it. I might tear up. I'm not kidding. Anyway, we stare completely frozen for about a minute until racist asshole takes out his gun and starts yelling at them. These guys don't pay any attention to us and just keep humping away, covered from the waist down in blood and what appeared to be some solid matter. Finally, my brain kicks in, and I tell racist asshole to lower his gun, and we both step forward and detain the two men. We call it all in, and we take the two men back to the station. They don't say a damn word the whole way back, but one of them kept chuckling. They tested positive for meth. Big fucking surprise. And they both were very incoherent, even after they came down. I didn't look too much into it, but they apparently were both run-of-the-mill laborers who had gone missing months prior. So that has to be one of the more gruesome things I've ever seen. One of the most visually disturbing anyway. So yeah, happy Halloween.
Fuck this cowboy shit! You fucking ho dunk, po dunk, well then there, motherfuckers!
There's always a reason to be afraid.